The U.S. is sending 1,500 more troops to the Mexican border ahead of an expected surge in migrants. The Biden administration says the soldiers will carry out administrative duties to free up regular Border Patrol agents to carry out patrol work. The deployment of military personnel is slated to last for 90 days. Now, COVID-19 restrictions have allowed U.S. officials to turn away tens of thousands of migrants at the border immediately, but the already record number of people crossing into the U.S. is expected to rise further when those pandemic restrictions are lifted on Thursday of next week. I want to go now to our correspondent, Carolina Chamoy in Washington. Carolina, you've been to the border. You've reported from there. Border officials, they're already reporting an uptick in migrants crossing, about 7,000 per day right now. They expect even more. What will change at the border when these coronavirus restrictions are lifted next week?
Well, the White House obviously fears that the lifting of Title 42 will create chaos at the border, Brent. But it's, of course, also a political issue, a political tool, and also many Republicans are sure that there will be chaos. But then there are the ones who say that there is already a border crisis and that this will not get worse due to the lifting of Title 42. And as you just mentioned, an average of 7,000 migrants per day have been entering the United States since this year started. I have been, as you said, many times to the border in the past months. And there are already many migrants sleeping on the streets. The shelters are already packed, and it is already an emergency situation for the border cities. Title 42 has not really stopped these migrants from crossing into the United States.
So these 1,500 extra troops that are being sent to the border, I mean, exactly what are they going to do? We're trying to imagine what's going to happen at the border if you have an influx of even more people. What do these soldiers do?
Well, the Pentagon is saying that the troops will help, especially in logistics, like, for example, filling gaps in transportation, warehouse support, narcotics detection, but also data entry. And the troops will be armed, but the Pentagon is saying this is just for self-defense and that weapons are not to be used by the troops for law enforcement. We also know that the troops will be deployed, as you mentioned, for 3 months, starting in May 10th, so just one day before Title 42 is lifted. And it's also important to mention that there are already 2,500 troops at the border doing this job. So this 1,500 are in addition to the ones who are already there.
U.S. officials, they've been talking to their counterparts in Mexico, we understand. Is there any attempt to work together to deal with this? Because no matter what the politicians say, I mean, it is a crisis at the border.
Indeed, yes. And Mexico's President López Obrador and U.S. Homeland Security Advisor met yesterday with their delegations in Mexico City. And we know that the Mexican government has agreed to receive third countries' deportees from the United States after Title 42 expires. But it is still unclear how Mexico wants to deal with it. The shelters also on the Mexican side are already packed with people. And as you might remember, there was this terrible accident of a burning shelter some weeks ago where almost 40 migrants died. So the crisis is already happening on both sides, so on the Mexican side and also on the U.S. side.
Yeah, we said border agents are saying 7,000 people per day trying to cross. Now, I mean, do they have any idea of the expected scale of migration that we're going to be talking about a week or two from now?
The truth, Brent, is that no one really knows what to expect once Title 42 is lifted. But the Biden administration obviously wants to prevent pictures of chaos at the border. We know his aides have been trying to stop these illegal crossings in the past 2 years, but with no success. Many NGOs even criticize that the Biden administration has relied on policies that were imposed during the Trump era. So there is a fear of a huge surge of migrants crossing, but no one can really tell how many more will arrive in an area that is already packed with migrants sleeping on the street. We know that the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mr. Mayorkas, that he will be traveling to the border this week to review the operations ahead of the lifting of this title.
Well, we know you will stay on this story. Carolina Chamoy in Washington. Carolina, as always, thank you.